Hello everyone and good evening. I'm Don Arleth and welcome back for another edition of Flash News. We begin tonight with President-elect Joe Biden, who has already left his home state of Delaware and arrived in Washington, D.C., where he will be sworn in as President of the United States on Wednesday.
Well, 12 years ago, I was waiting at the train station in Wilmington for a black man to pick me up on our way to Washington, where we were sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States of America. And here we are today, my family and I, about to return to Washington to meet a black woman of South Asian descent to be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States.
Outgoing President of the United States Donald Trump, in a farewell video, told Americans that for the last 4 years he fought for them, their families, and country. He also mentioned Poland in his farewell speech.
From a great hall of Muslim leaders in Riyadh to a great square of Polish people in Warsaw, from the floor of the Korean Assembly to the podium at the United Nations General Assembly, and from the Forbidden City in Beijing to the shadow of Mount Rushmore, I fought for you, I fought for your family, I fought for our country. Above all, I fought for America and all it stands for.
Streets in the United States Capitol are completely closed down, and thousands of soldiers from the National Guard line virtually every crossing. This is what Washington looks like in a nutshell on the eve of Joe Biden's inauguration as President of the United States.
It's probably the most common sight you see on the streets of America's capital today. Concrete barricades, metal 3-foot fences, some with barbed wire. Police, the military, almost at every crossing, and people, all in good spirits.
I am not afraid at all. With 25,000 troops here in Washington, there's nothing to be afraid of, and I think they've done a really good job putting up fences and barriers.
The closer you get to ground zero, the capital, the greater the security measures.
There are guardsmen from all 50 states, all territories, are here supporting the District of Columbia National Guard.
Using social media, Melania Trump said goodbye to the American people.
As Donald and I conclude our time in the White House, I think of all of the people I have taken home in my heart and their incredible stories of love, patriotism, and determination.
But these are their final hours in the White House. On Wednesday, all of America will welcome the new 46th President of the United States.
Poland continues to march forward in the fight against the pandemic. The number of people vaccinated against COVID-19 is approaching 500,000. The implementation of the national vaccination program was the subject of a debate with President Andrzej Duda.
Questions during the debate were asked by internet users. One of them concerned mandatory vaccination against COVID-19. The vaccines, while recommended, will remain voluntary. At the state level, no obligation will be introduced by the state executive or legislative. Enrollment is underway for vaccinations for those over the age of 80. There are still places available, so I urge you to use the hotline first of all, because it is the easiest and safest way to register for vaccinations. Enrollment begins Friday for those over the age of 70. Will there be passports for the vaccinated? There will be a possibility of downloading such a QR code that is such a graphic information which will give priority to the fact that the person has been vaccinated. Vaccination in nursing homes across the country is also underway. More than 70% of the more than 100,000 residents want to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Vaccinations in nursing homes will continue through Friday.
Coronavirus mutations have reached Switzerland and the Czech Republic. Both countries are extending restrictions. A South African strain of the virus has been detected in more than a dozen people at a Swiss ski resort. And in Germany, authorities there said they will forcibly isolate people who blatantly violate the stay-at-home orders.
The Swiss ski resort of St. Moritz has become a hotspot of South African coronavirus strain. At least a dozen people have been infected with this strain. The slopes remained open. The health department has closed 2 5-star hotels. Anyone infected will have to be quarantined. Others will be asked to leave the resort. All guests must be tested. That's about 400 people. The German authorities are preparing new restrictions for people who repeatedly violate the quarantine. After a court sentence, they will be forced to go to isolation. This applies to people who notoriously violate quarantine regulations, primarily so-called corona skeptics. Such individuals will be isolated and guarded by retired prison guards. Mobilization also in the UK, where a mutated, extremely contagious virus is wreaking havoc. Nearly 40,000 new cases have been reported. Strict restrictions are in place.
That is the highest that it's been throughout the pandemic. And someone is admitted to hospital every 30 seconds. And sadly, today 599 more deaths were recorded.
The Czechs have confirmed the presence of a British mutation of the coronavirus and want to extend the hard lockdown by 30 days for this reason.
The West is outraged, and Russia really doesn't care. The arrest of opposition activist Alexei Navalny is an internal matter of the Russian Federation, and Moscow will not allow anyone to interfere, according to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov.
Calls for the release of Alexei Navalny come from many countries and international institutions. The Kremlin leaves no doubts. Alexei Navalny did not obey the law, and that is why he was in arrest. He will spend there 30 days. Behind bars, the oppositionist will wait for a court decision, after which he may be sent to Gulag for at least 2 years. Navalny called on his supporters to take to the streets. Protest, not for me, but for yourselves, he appealed. Black clouds over Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. Its construction, unfavorable for Poland and other Central European countries, may be stopped. Even Gazprom itself admitted this. The Russian ship Fortuna, which was to finish laying the last 100 kilometers of the gas pipeline on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, has been subject to American sanctions. According to the Bild newspaper, the first German company resigned from work on the pipeline. This is a sign that American sanctions are effectively deterring Gazprom's European partners. The fight against time for the life of a Pole in a British hospital continues. The medical services there, with the permission of the court, disconnected him from food and water. The reason is supposed to be a serious brain damage of the man. The British do not wish to allow Polish consular services to see him. Poland is trying to get the man into the country. The Ministry of Health declared to organize a safe transport. President Andrzej Duda also intervened, and Minister Krzysztof Szczerski met with the British ambassador at his request.
It was her first pregnancy in life, but she didn't expect so many. In Poznan, after 14 years, another set of quintuplets were born in Poland. This time, 4 girls and 1 boy.
When quintuplets are born, the whole country talks about it, because such a birth is rare. Statistically speaking, there is a 1 in 50 million chance that a woman will give birth to quintuplets. The babies were born the 29th week. Their mother burst into tears with happiness. After the surgery, I'm still a little weak, but I'm happy to be a mom, even if it's 5 babies. Hanna had been in the ward for several weeks, and according to the doctors, every day was a struggle to keep the pregnancy as long as possible. Medication, bed rest and supervision, because if something happened to one of the babies, we'd have to end the pregnancy. If the children had been born earlier, they would not have had a chance to survive. The smallest of them, named Anastasia, weighs 700 grams. The biggest one, named Maximilian, almost 1,200. Everybody's condition is stable. But you have to realize that all children require respiratory support. None of them is breathing by themselves. So doctors are very cautious. The children still have many weeks ahead in the hospital.
The cultural capital of Italy in 2022 will be an entire island, or rather the small island of Procida, lying in the Gulf of Naples in the shadow of the much more famous island of Capri. This news caused euphoria amongst Procida's residents.
Tears of happiness were not fake. For the first time in the history of the event, an island was chosen as the cultural capital of Italy. In the competition, it beat such cities like Bari, Taranto and Volterra. Procida is only 4 square kilometers large and can be visited in 1 day, but its small size does not mean small charm. It is considered the most colorful island of Italy. As the capital of culture, Procida will get €1 million. And it will definitely come out of Capri's shadow. Residents of towns at the foot of Mount Etna did not have a peaceful night. The highest European volcano woke up, so people woke up as well. Those most fascinated with natural phenomena could admire Etna's activity, of course from a safe distance. Fire was coming out of the crater and lava was flowing down its slopes. In the morning, the sight of streets and cars covered with volcanic ash immediately put many inhabitants on their feet. He's only 10 years old, but his plans for the future are far-reaching. Kyuta Kumaga from Tokyo is a sumo champion in the category of the youngest competitors. He's also up against fighters a few years older, but for now in training. The boy trains 6 days a week under the watchful eye of his father, who does not show any leniency towards his son. Kyuta knows that only hard work can lead him to the top.
And that's all the time we have for today. Karolina Poniatkowska is back tomorrow, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening. Good night.